Hi, welcome. We're here today with Pablo. Pablo, thank you for joining us. How are you?
Thank you. I'm
Please-
good. Thank you for having me.
That's good. Please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you.
My name is Pablo Raul, and I am a musician from Argentina. And so I'm an immigrant. I came here by myself when I was 18 years old, and I started making films to promote my music. And thus we find ourselves here.
Okay, great. Thank you for joining us. All right, so you kind of answered the first question. I'm going to ask it anyway. What made you want to be a filmmaker?
Well, there you go. As a musician, you always have to have now you have to have visuals for your music. It's not good enough just to make music. And so I started. I decided, oh, I'm gonna try to make a music video. And but the reality was that it was the pandemic that really made it happen. I was originally just going to do just video footage of the band playing. We had a residency at the Bitter End. You ever heard of the Bitter End?
Uh-huh. I used to live across the street from it.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I lived not too far away from it. And so I had a 3-year residency there. And I thought, oh, it would be great just to shoot, us doing the song. And then the pandemic happened. And my friend who's a photographer and a film enthusiast was going to do it. And then I thought, why don't we make a video? Because New York is empty. This is the time to do it. One of the greatest canvas you're ever going to find in film, and it's empty. So that's exactly what we did. And that's where I shot my first music video. And somebody said to me, there are film festivals for music videos. I said, "You really?" And so I started applying for music festivals. And the music video that I have at this festival, um, at New York City Independent, is my second, actually. It's my second music video. And so now I'm into it. I'm enjoying it, you know. And
Yeah,
I find the editing process really addictive. I love it.
really,
That's why I'm
my opinion is the worst aspect of making movies is the editing.
that's funny. That's
I
funny.
know, I know. All right,
To
so
each to each his own, right?
exactly. So I guess
Yeah.
my next question is, how long have you been doing this, and how many films have you made? You kind of answered, but I'll still ask the question. So how long have you been doing
No, that's a good question because I'm currently working on my third right now.
it? Uh-huh.
So I finished shooting the third just in March, and uh I'm shooting my third, and I'm sorry, you asked me how long I've been doing it. I basically started in 2020. We shot the first shooting we did was June of 2020. We went outside and we shot. We were, like I said, we shot in the East Village. We shot in Tribeca. I don't know if you know. There's a famous Bob Dylan kind of music video, although you didn't call him that, but there's a famous Bob Dylan music video where he's singing the song in an alley in New York, and he has the lyrics in cardboard pieces. And as he's
Uh,
singing, he's throwing the lyrics on the floor, and each word, like it's a very famous video.
I see that, yeah.
Yeah, it's a very cool video, and it's very famous. And I think like Ginsberg is like dressed up as a bum in the back or something like that. And it's a very touristy area. It's like they're like, it's like because of the pandemic, the place was empty. We got to basically shoot in the same place that Bob Dylan got to do his thing, and it
That's
was
cool.
great because if we tried to do it today, it would be impossible because it would be full of people.
Yeah.
But it was good. And that's basically when I started in 2020.
Okay. So when you first told your friends and family you want to be a filmmaker, what did they say? Were they supportive? They sit there and go, "You're a musician. Why are you going to do that?" How did that work out?
Yeah, it's funny. I think at first I just said I'm gonna make a music video. I didn't even say myself I was gonna be a filmmaker. I didn't think I was gonna be a filmmaker. I was just gonna make a music video to promote. And then inadvertently, you know, I like I said, I fell in love with the process. I fell in love with editing, and I fell in love with I mean, shooting it is easy. I I actually went to school for theater originally, and I studied singing, and that's how I got into music. And so for me, it was kind of like very natural for me to be in front of the camera and, jumping up and down, whatever. But I kind of fell in love with the process. And so I've never really told people I'm going to be a filmmaker. I just all of a sudden I made a music video to promote my music, which people kind of sort of expected. But I think the surprise was, it got official selection at this place. It got official. People were like, oh, wow, So I think it sneaked up on everybody, including myself. So it was okay. It was received okay because it sneaked up on everybody.
So do you have a support group? Do you have a tribe of filmmakers, or is it just your music tribe? Do you have your filmmaker tribe?
I have I have the cinematographer is kind of like we're kind of buddies now because we're on our third um our we just I just did my third with him. I switched after my first with somebody else to somebody more professional, and that's what I'm working with now. So we're kind of buddies, and we're kind of developing a language now. It was cool to do that, to have when to go to make a third music video and be developing a language, and feel like, oh, we're kind of have some things we understand about each other. You know what I'm talking about, where you kind of start understanding each other a little bit. But no, I'm just starting to meet people and kind of start seeing myself as a filmmaker. So slowly I'm meeting people and asking questions and getting to slowly develop the tribe, just like you said.
Okay. All right, great. So I think you already answered what made you decide to make this film, but I'll ask anyway. What made you decide to make this film this way?
Yeah, this film is, like I said, I wanted to make a second music video. I really fell in love with the process, and I wanted to make it a little more professionally. So I got somebody who's an actual cinematographer, and I had this song that I finished that I liked. It's a flamenco, so I got a professional flamenco dancer to shoot it, and just took everything a little bit more seriously this time, and a little bit more just to give it a swing, and also you never know, because if you make one and it's good, you're always going to be nervous on your second, no matter what it is, even if you're making paper airplanes. If the first one is a success, I hope the second one works out just as well,
Mhm.
um so that's what made me want to make it, and make it a little bit better and pay a little bit more attention, and learn also, how to do things a little bit more.
Okay. So I'm going to ask these two questions together. What was the
Yeah.
hardest part and what was the most fun?
The hardest part is directing it because I'm in it, you know. I make the music, so it features me a lot, and that's the hardest part because I'm basically a shoestring. I produce it myself, I don't have anybody putting money into my project, So so that's the hardest part, definitely, is directing it. Because you shoot and then you go and you look at it, but it's always, I always feel like some 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 of the shooting process is a little bit left to chance, you know.
Mhm.
And I unfortunately that's the nature of where I'm at. I accept it, I live with it, and then like I said, in the editing room is where I probably have the most fun editing, really, because the shooting day or days just go so fast. It's kind of like a whirlwind. There's a few, however many hours you're shooting, you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I survived that. Um, but I really enjoy the editing process. It's like a jigsaw puzzle, in a way, it's very similar to making music nowadays, because you're kind of putting the instruments that it's like DaVinci Resolve is very similar to Pro Tools. You're putting the pieces together, and even though the performance happens, you grab the best part and you put it in there, and so I really enjoyed finding what the best pieces are and getting through it and trying different versions. So I like I said, I really fell in love with the editing, and I also find that um you just like you can come up with ideas when you're shooting and
Mhm.
creativity in that moment, you can also do that in editing. You find like, oh, all of a sudden I think, oh, if I look at it this way, I all of a sudden it's a completely different way of looking at it, and it gives it a different perspective. And I discover things in the editing process that I wouldn't have even thought of um, when I was shooting. So
Cool.
as bizarre as it may sound, I enjoy editing.
Sounds great. I mean, my
Yeah,
editor enjoys editing, so I can't complain.
right. Obviously, one would hope that editors enjoy it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So this I guess also goes for your music. Are you the type of creator where you create something, you've finished it, and you send it out to the world, and you say, okay, that baby's done. That's it. Or are you the type of creator where you sit there, you finish it, you send it out to the world, and you go, someday I'm going to make enough money and redo that because I can do it better. Which type are you?
That's a great question. You know, I think I have a rule for myself that I developed with music and I apply it with the filmmaking, which is I'm not going to finish until I feel like I'm very happy with what I have in front of me. I'm not I don't put out work that I'm not happy with,
Mhm.
because I through the years of doing music that I wasn't quite happy with, I found that it's a waste of time and it's a waste of money to put out something that you're really not happy with. So I'd rather take a long time, and I do take a long time. I take a long time to do things, whether it's to finish a song or to finish a film. Like for example, a friend of mine who owns an office in uh, in Tribeca let me shoot in his office this third video that we were doing. And he asked me like almost immediately, so when is the film going to be finished? Thinking it was going to be done, in a
Right.
couple of weeks, and I'm like, I'm thinking end of the summer. That's my hopeful, that's what I'm hoping that it'll be done,
Mhm.
because like I said, I'm not, I don't let it go. So I don't see myself as going back when I have $1 million or whatever it is to shoot it again. I don't see that. I'm happy with it because like I said, I don't release it unless I'm happy with it.
Okay. All right, cool. My next question is, in the indie film world, we all know that indie films are not going to make us millionaires. We're not going to be Taylor Swift making
Oh
indie.
yeah. Oh, for sure. I'm in the same boat
So,
musically, so I get it.
so what is success? How do you see success in the indie world? What makes you sit there and go, okay, I
I mean,
succeeded?
I always have thought of success as an artist as making a living strictly from the art. That's my baseline. If I can make a living strictly from making art, I'll be happy. If I can make more, fantastic.
Right.
But for me, the baseline is making, and I'm talking about a nice living. I'm not talking about like, um, I, I to make ends meet, I teach music, you know, so I have to teach some classes. Pretty much every musician, even people who, I fortunately I'm lucky enough to, like, in my recordings, I have some people who work with famous people, like Sting's guitarist is in one of my songs and stuff like that, and other musicians that you might not know the artist because they're Latin, but stuff like that. People who travel all over the world, they play with Sting, they play in stadiums,
Mhm.
um, even they have to teach some classes every once in a while, you know. So to me, success would be being able to just make a living from the art. But whatever. I live in New York. I'm an artist. I'm gonna do it whether whether I make the $1 million or not.
Yeah.
So that's why that's who I am. I know that's who I am. I'm gonna keep doing it because that's who I am, and so it makes me happy. So it's okay, But that's my definition of baseline success.
Okay, cool, cool. All right, so let's say somebody comes along and goes, "Hey, Uncle Pablo, I want to be a filmmaker just like you. What would
All
be
right.
what would be your what would be your advice? What would be your conversation? How would that go?"
Oh, well, I definitely think the first thing I would say is, "Are you sure?" Uh, and then the second thing I would say is definitely you have to know the. I'm sure you know this. You have to work no matter what art you do, you have to work very hard, very, very hard. I at least if you want to be happy with it, like I said, because financial success is not guaranteed. So in order to be happy with what you're doing, you have to be happy with what you're doing. And the only way to be happy with it is to work hard and to see some results, you know. That's why I take a long time with what I do, because if I'm not happy with it, then why am I doing it? That I always remember I'm sorry, I just go off into a
That's
tangent,
all
but
right. It's a conversation, so that's fine.
right. I always remember, when I was first starting out as a musician, I remember doing the show and I was just starting, and the venue was, they were like taking money from the door when they shouldn't have. And the musicians were, I wasn't getting along with one of them, and it was difficult, and not many people. It was just, the usual beginning nightmare that you get as when you're starting out on anything.
Right.
And I remember complaining to a friend of mine and saying, "Oh, this is wrong and this is bad." And she said to me something that really set kind of like became a North Star for me, which was, um, are you enjoying yourself? Because if you're not, why are you doing it? And it really stopped me in my tracks, because I thought, my God, she's right. Like, if I don't enjoy this, only an insane person would put themselves through this if they don't enjoy it. And so that's when I realized, okay, that that's the one thing I have to do. I have to enjoy what I'm doing. If I don't enjoy it, then forget it. And so that's what I would say to them. I would say, make sure that as hard as you work, you have to enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, don't put yourself through it. There is no point. Like most people, whenever you tell them you're going to be an artist of any kind, and tell you you're insane. That's the first reaction.
It is
That's
a sign of
normal
insanity.
reaction. Yep. What's that?
I said it is a sign of insanity. But anyway, go ahead.
Yes, absolutely, it is. Um, and so that's the one thing I would say. Work very hard, but also make sure that you're enjoying. Make sure that that is the reason why you're doing it, and not to be famous, not to be rich, and not to be anything. Because if it doesn't happen, you're going to be really miserable. Whereas if you're not rich and famous, but you enjoy it, then you found what you love.
Yep.
And that's what else can you ask for? There's so many people who don't know what they love, or they do what they don't love, and it makes them unhappy, and they're always unhappy. I don't have that problem. I have other problems. We all have problems, but that problem I don't have. So
That's the
that would
last,
be my advice.
okay. That's the last of my questions. Do you have any other thoughts or wisdom you want to share with the world out there about what's it like to be an independent artist?
Um, no, what I said, I mean, those are great questions, and what I said is pretty much it. Make sure you work hard at it, because at the end of the day, that way you're not going to regret anything. You give it your best, and then you're happy with what you're doing. And if you're not happy, then you shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah.
And I think that's it. I think that's the most important part.
All right, great. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. It was great.
Thank you so much. That was fun.